Welcome to Jumping In, the short-form series of the Jedburgh podcast. I'm the creator and host, Fran Racioppi. Each week I speak with transformative leaders, visionaries, drivers of change, and those dedicated to winning no matter the challenge. Our long-form series goes deep. Our short-form series allows us to jump in fast, explore some of today's most prominent topics, catch up with previous guests, or give you my opinion on what's happening in the world today. And just like our Jedburgh teams of the past who jumped into occupied France the night before D-Day, we get the information out and we get off the drop zone. The Jedburgh podcast is sponsored by Jersey Mike's Subs. Together, we share the mission of giving back. We're partnered with Talent War Group, a management consulting and executive search firm focused on helping you optimize the people side of your business. A percentage of all proceeds is dedicated to the Special Operations Warrior Foundation. Visit us at jedburghpodcast.com, follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube, and subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. We're over the drop zone. We got the green light. Now it's time to jump in. The first New York City Veterans Day Parade occurred on September 10th, 1919, shortly after the armistice that ended World War I. Soldiers came home from overseas, they landed in New York, and they marched up Fifth Avenue into the arms of their loved ones. Throughout the years, the parade has continued to honor those who have served and those who continue to serve and fight for our freedom and our way of life. The United War Veterans Council is the keeper of the parade. Their lineage dates back to the Spanish-American War of 1898. Today, they're led by Executive Director Mark Otto and Chairman Nick Angione. I myself had the privilege to serve UWVC as the treasurer and the emcee of the parade in 2018 and 2019. Mark and Nick are both Marines and they're active in Go Ruck, so they took the trip from the city down to Sandlot Jacks in the Go Ruck games. I had no idea they were going to be there, so when I saw them at the concert on the first night, I scooped them up, I threw them in the back of the ambulance, and we jumped in on UWVC. Mark, Nick, and I talked the parade, the history of UWVC, their careers as Devil Dogs, and what it means to continue to serve our veteran community through health and wellness. Check out our videos and our pictures from this episode, Sandlot Jacks, and our previous episodes on YouTube, our social media at Jedburgh Podcast or at jedburghpodcast.com. Shoot us a note, let us know what you think, and if we play it right, we'll see you at the parade this year. Mark, Nick, welcome to the Jedburgh Podcast.
Thanks for having us on.
Thanks for having us on.
I appreciate you guys taking the time. So many things going on here at Sandlot Jacks. I dragged you away from Jersey Mike's, all right? Because I know, because they came, they dropped the sandwiches, they're passing them out. Yeah. It was our time, but we'll get you out of here. We'll get you back. We'll make sure we save you some and get you your lunch because I know you're working hard in all the events.
Thanks. Sounds good. Thanks.
I want to talk about United War Veterans Council. So certainly an organization, near and dear to your hearts, my heart.
Mm-hmm.
We worked together there as when I was the treasurer for a time. But Mark, you're the executive director. Nick, you're the chairman. Now, what's now second year, right? Third year.
Going into third year.
Going into the third year.
Yeah.
And Mark's been there now 5 years.
Going into the sixth.
Going into the sixth.
Yeah.
So. Just truly amazing organization, and I'm so honored to have been a part of it and been able to serve that organization with you guys, and you guys continue to carry that torch. But UWVC is the host of so many events in the recognition of service, especially in New York with the Vietnam Memorial, the Veterans Day Parade, and then also the health and wellness programs. And I want to get into both of those, but let's start with the big one, the keynote, right? The parade.
Yeah.
Talk to me a bit about the upcoming parade, the history of the parade, and where we're going with it this year.
Sure. Yeah, so this is the 103rd parade.
That's it?
Yeah. so the parade traces its roots back to the World War I Welcome Home parades. Mm-hmm. So General Pershing marched on the same route on Fifth Avenue. For those that know New York, it's basically from the Flatiron Building on Fifth Avenue and 23rd, and it ends just under St. Patrick's Cathedral. So that's sort of the hollow ground that veterans have been marching on for 103 years, and it's amazing to be part of this tradition. The parade almost failed and went under in the mid-'80s, and Vince McGowan, who's our emeritus president, he was Special Operations Marines in Vietnam, and he said, no way that's going to happen. He huddled up with some Vietnam veterans. They saved the parade. They've stood up the charter for the United War Veterans Council, and our charter dates back to like the Spanish-American War. And they reignited the parade and built it up from like a handful of veterans to what it is today. And now it's the largest parade in the country that honors veteran service. So it's something to be proud of. We have 25,000 marchers. 36 states have representatives that come every year. And we have foreign allies that come from as far as Australia and South Korea. So from around the world, it's amazing. But everything is about honoring service, not only U.S. service, but also our allies.
And there's been presidents, I mean, who've come to this. I mean, I had the honor. You have had the honor of a couple of times of meeting former President Trump. I had the honor 2 times of being able to emcee the parade, which was truly, you know, a highlight of some of the things that I've gotten to do. But let's also talk about your roles and how you guys came into this. And so, you know, Nick, you were a Marine.
Correct.
Sorry. I won't hold it against you.
No, I that was coming at some point.
Oh, you were both Marines, so now I'm outnumbered.
Once a Marine, always a Marine.
if I keep going, you guys are going to close the door. You close the doors of this ambulance, and they're going to get roughed up here in a minute. But talk to me about you. You know, your service. What did you do in the Marines, and then, you know, what do you do now, and how'd you end up in this role?
Yeah, so I was in the Marine Corps from 1991 to 1995. I served as 2nd Reconnaissance Battalion Marine for basically my entire enlistment. Did 2 floats overseas, which is a 6-month deployment on a ship. So even though I was in the Marine Corps, I did sail on a Navy ship across the Atlantic 4 times. Once on the USS
I don't want to do that one time.
And once on the USS Wasp. I tell you, it was an interesting experience because it's a means to get to the battle, let's say, but it was definitely an interesting experience. When I got out of service, it's very interesting, our stories, Mark's and I's stories, because though we didn't do things at the same time, we did a lot of the same things.
We were on the same ground.
Yeah.
Around the world. Like, it's crazy.
Literally, it's crazy.
Except Mark, like, built the ground.
I'm not that old.
I look older than him, but he's actually older.
He looks younger than... He's like way older than both of us and looks better than the 2 of us.
Yeah, so got out of the Corps and went into finance, inevitably working for the New York Stock Exchange for about 2 years. And again, Mark, I spent 2 years there. Mark spent 2.5 decades there. Got through finance, got into construction, and now I do construction management. And I've just recently gotten into home inspection. So I do home inspections for commercial and residential housing. So that's the livelihood side of what I do, let's say. In terms of the commitment to service, I met Mark probably like 6 years ago, I guess at this 6-7 years ago, and he was doing his 1,000-mile ruck march with his American flag around New Jersey, and we had happened to come to a CrossFit competition, and we didn't know each other then, and he's standing up there with his American flag, and he's Marine, so I'm like, I got that in common. He started going through his speech and stuff, and I'm like, wait, I was there. I'm like, I gotta meet this guy. And we wound up rucking a couple miles that day together and just kind of yapping at each other. I'm like, dude, we gotta do a thing. Like, we gotta do something because this is perfect. And then from there, that was really the catalyst to, hey, let's get involved with the UWVC and the parade. But he wanted to do, and we have that same ideology of, like, yes, it's a parade. That's our kind of our keystone, right? But the reality is, our commitment to service is not just about celebrating veterans on Veterans Day. It's being able to outreach, right, to the most needing of veterans. And not just finance, like things that when there's guys and gals in basements contemplating their last days, we want to find that. Like, we want to be there. And we want to bring those people out of the shadows and into a community. And then whether it's a Go Ruck race or RWB, whatever it is, whether it's an athletic event or as simple as we do Mark runs, again, our health and wellness program, and there's something there that you really wouldn't think of. He runs an art studio. Take our veterans to an art studio, and they literally just trace and mimic caricatures. And I did it once. I've gone through it a couple of times, and I did it once, and it was amazing how calming that is. Because no one thinks you're going to be the next Picasso, right? It's just about taking that time to focus solely on this little picture. And it really was an enlightening experience because I wasn't expecting it. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go draw, like, Mickey Mouse or whatever I think it was. But it was a very cool experience. So we both agreed that this is the course that we wanted to do. Like, yes, the parade, but we want to use the platform of the United Board of Veterans Council to help as many folks as we can.
Yeah. And Mark, you, as Nick mentioned,
have been in service, I think, you know, to veterans since, I'll joke, the dawn of time. but you have served as a Marine for a while. You were in a number of some of the most, you know, high profile campaigns in Panama and Grenada. But talk about your career, where you came from, and also about your birth, because I think that your history of service dates back not only to you and you personally, but your family for generations.
Absolutely. So yeah, I'm proud to say that I'm sixth in my family to serve. All 6 of us were born in New York City, which is pretty cool because I run the Veterans Day Parade, and all 6 of us were in wars. So my great-great-uncle served in World War I, my grandfather and my great-uncle World War II. They were both in the European theater. And then my dad served in Vietnam 2.5 tours, and so did my uncle. But my story really begins in the Vietnam War. I am a war child. So I was actually conceived in Vietnam, born here in the United States. My dad did 3 tours, started in '66, met my mom, fell in love, got married, and had my sister in Vietnam. At the end of his 2nd tour, he was home on leave because my dad was the oldest of 11 in a big Irish-German family. Wow. Living in what's now Soho, way before it was fashionable, right? It was like factories and that kind of thing back then. Right. But yeah, so he's home on leave, and the '68 Tet Offensive breaks out. So that's, you know, 200 American bases and installations were attacked all at once on the Lunar New Year in 1968 by the VC and the NDA. So the war physically separated my parents, and my dad basically went on a quasi-rescue mission to go find my mom because they lived off base. So, you know, my dad ends up getting wounded as a result of the VC blowing up an ammo depot, and he wakes up in a field hospital like you see on like MASH TV shows. He wakes up there, and once he finds out where he was, well, first a colonel's like walking down the row handing out Purple Hearts to the wounded. My dad's like, I think I was in a car accident, even though like it was caused by the blast. So he finds out where he is. He's like, I got to get out of here and go find my wife. And they're like, you have been unconscious for over a day. They're like, you have to stay on observation. And he just walked out. So my dad's like hitchhiking with the you know, Tet Offensive going on. Things are blowing up. You know, people getting murdered in the streets, like chaos and pandemonium. And he's hitchhiking through the war zone. And to get to my mom. So so they end up by a miracle finding each other. He found my grandfather first in a marketplace by a miracle. And my dad's head was all bandaged up. He had to take off the bandages because my grandfather couldn't recognize him. He was so banged up. But yeah, they're married 55 years, and they're actually retired, happily living right here in Florida. So happy ending. But that was the beginning for me. And ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to follow in the footsteps of those who came before me and serve my country and be a part of something bigger. But I joined the Marines. They were all in the Army. The 5 before me in the Army.
Yeah, the Army wasn't recruiting, I guess, at that point in time.
So I joined the Marines, and you know, changed my life. Just it probably does for every Marine in some way, shape, or form. But I joined the Marines, and my parents were like, we're not crazy about you going to the military because we've lived through war. Yeah. But they're like, you know, well, nothing's really gone on since Vietnam. It's been like 20 years. Like, what could happen, right? And little they know, it's like, you know, I turned 19 and boom, I'm in like the Panama invasion, and I'm watching like thousands of paratroopers jumping into combat at night when it triggered off, and like the whole sky just lit up with the Panama invasion. And then, you know, that was my first time in combat. I was barely 19. The next year I was in Desert Storm. So I was on little 5-man surveillance teams, and we put in remote sensors and we track enemy movement, and then we call strikes on them, and we feed information up and that kind of thing. So for Desert Storm, it was perfect. Panama, not so good because the surveillance team before us had sensors all around the canals. But when the invasion kicked off, they're like, you are all now riflemen and communicators, and every Marine's a rifleman. Boom, it was direct action. But in Desert Storm, linear warfare, 600,000 U.S. troops at the spearhead of like 1 million, you know, 38 countries participated in Desert Storm. But it's probably going to be like the last linear war we ever had, where there's like a line in the sand. Your bad guys are on that side, our good guys are on this side, and we're gonna have it out. Yeah. But yeah, that was an incredible experience, just being part of something that massive scale. Going through the breach, which was like 3.2 million mines that were around Kuwait. They just breached, you know, with line charges and made makeshift roads that we went through. The oil well fire shifted over us. We couldn't see. We had to stop our column. It was pretty wild. But then after that, you know, I get back to the base, and we're already training up for the next operations. I did 2 operations on the border of Texas and Mexico, and then Arizona and Mexico. we put out our sensor fields along the Rio Grande River, and we tracked dopers coming north. So we were working with the feds on that one. But it was a pretty colorful 4 years. You know, before I was the age of 22.
Yeah,
19 and 22, like all this happened. So
it's like a history of conflict. I mean, we still talk about it. We still talk about it today. I mean, all of these conflicts that you were.
Yeah. So it was an honor to be a part of it. I feel like it was like sort of the golden age for the military. My service it overlapped Bush Sr.'s service, and he was like our last war hero president. And at the time, you know, we had Colin Powell, Norman Schwarzkopf, and they're like, you know, the battlefield commanders are running the war. No one messed with them, and they certainly had lived through Vietnam. They're like, that's never going to happen again. Right. So I was very grateful that we had very competent leaders that made sure that, I call them lightning wars. Like, we just went in, did all our objectives, came home.
Yeah, well, the Powell Doctrine.
Yes,
that was the Powell Doctrine.
Exactly.
Of you know, overwhelming force, right? When you commit to going,
exactly,
you know, then we commit everything.
Right.
Exactly. Everything goes, and we win this thing as quickly as possible. Yeah, we've certainly gotten away from that the last 20 years.
Absolutely.
Or so. And then you get out, and then you spend another several decades of service at the New York Stock Exchange.
It's funny to hear him say like 2.5 decades, but I'm like, well,
yeah.
Shit. Can I say shit? I'm sorry.
We've had it.
I was like, it was 27 years on the floor, and just hearing it, it's like, wow, that's pretty crazy.
You are old. Don't
you are old. But yeah, I started out in the trading pits in the stock exchange. I started out at the very bottom, like grabbing lunches and doing menial tasks, and I worked my way up. I was a specialist market maker, arbitrage trader, eventually managing director and partner. I never would have stayed as long as I did. I probably would have left like 10 years ago, but I started, you know, integrating working with veterans into what I was doing on the stock exchange. So after 9/11, we started up a veterans program, and we had, you know, a 10-week program where veterans would come in as interns, and we would teach them, you know, the mechanics of what the equities market was like and that kind of thing. So that was an amazing experience, and because of that, I started volunteering with all sorts of veteran organizations, because I was like, this is amazing, being around my people again, being able to help people that are following in my footsteps. My job on the stock exchange, I got from a Vietnam veteran. Right. So I was like, from here on, I'm just going to pay it forward whenever I can. And that's basically what I've been doing. So, but it's been amazing to just impact people's lives. And eventually, through my volunteering, I got involved with the United War Veterans Council. I was a volunteer for the parade, and then I was on the advisory council, and then, as you know, history took its course, and here I am. I'm president and executive director.
And you've also been heavily involved with GoRuck and Team RWB.
Yeah. So I was here 6 years ago, and that was a big turning point in my life, because Team RWB, I was a ruck leader in New York City, and they did their first ever national regional ruck camp right here in Jack's Beach. And I went there representing the Northeast region because of I did a 1,000-mile ruck march. I lost a friend to PTS that I served with in Desert Storm. And I did a 1,000-mile ruck march. I carried the American flag the whole way to honor him, and I was raising money for the Headstrong Project in New York. Right. Because they started calling him the flag guy. Because they didn't know his name. They'd be like, hey, there's the flag guy. Exactly.
Take pictures.
But if you follow Mark on, and I encourage everyone to follow Mark, on social media, right? And it's not Mark Otto. It's
NYSC Marine.
On
Instagram.
So if you follow him, I mean, the majority of his pictures are him with this flag. Mark and I actually met because I worked at Merrill Lynch in Red Bank, New Jersey. And I had gone to business school with a guy who knew Mark, and it was just like, oh, you work in Red Bank? I know a guy who lives in Red Bank. His name's Mark, and he was a veteran. You should talk to him. And so I did. And then we went. Then we used to go, every couple of weeks when I would go down to work, we would go to lunch in Red Bank and catch up. But you would see him walking through Red Bank with this flag, and it's like, what is this guy doing?
Right. Exactly. It was great.
But that's become a rallying cry.
100%.
So it really was. It was spreading awareness about the veteran suicide epidemic, and I was raising money for the Headstrong Project because my way of honoring my friend. I was raising $5,000, which was one veteran's treatment. That's the average to get them through. So I was like, if I can save a veteran's life, I'm honoring my friend. Yeah. And then the 1,000 miles I carried the flag, how are they going to know what I'm doing? Right. So a bunch of people started asking me, what are you doing with the flag? And then in my local town of Red Bank, I went by a CrossFit gym, and like everyone dropped their weights and came running out. They're like, what are you doing? They're like, we're gonna do a WOD, we're gonna spread awareness, we're gonna raise money. And that sort of caught wildfire on social media, and that's how it really took off. But yeah, you also have a nickname though, because every time we used to meet for lunch, you are a Green Beret burrito guy to my wife. Where are you going? I'm going to meet my friend Fran. Green Beret. So we used to always eat burritos at this one place. It was awesome, but that's the way we got connected. So, but people like you, like Nick, it's been amazing. Everyone's organically sort of dropped into my life. Yeah. Like I didn't go looking for them. Like amazing people like you guys just pop into my life, and I add you to the community, and then it's just built out more and more. So again, like Gowork says, like it's not about me, you know, it's about the community, and that's the amazing thing that we've been able to do through the UWVC. So
yeah, no, I think I reference it when I talk about you a lot. You know, one of the great not communicators, but also, you know, networkers. And I think you invest a lot in relationships with people, and that's something that we on this podcast, it's one of our core kind of values, and one of the things we talk about so much is, you know, how do we build these teams?
Absolutely,
right? Because you know you can't do anything without the team. I mean, I'm sitting here, and you notice me keep looking out here because I got 5 people out here,
yeah,
right? And one of the guys who was with it came up to me earlier, right before we started the day, and we're going like 10 hours straight of interviews today. Wow. And he said, I didn't go to bed until about 2 a.m. and I was up at 6, just before 6, and he said, "Don't you get tired?" And I said, "It doesn't matter."
Right.
Yeah.
It's not a thing.
It's not a thing.
When you're doing something you love, it's just like time doesn't matter. It's like you're just doing what you love. So you don't even like look at your watch, or like you're not mindful of, oh my God, I have to get this done. It's just whatever it takes.
Yeah, it's just the next sequence. It's just, that's all you're thinking about.
And that's what it is. We're here. We did Chad 1000X this morning with Sarah Wilkinson in honor of her husband, Chad Wilkinson, Navy SEAL, right? And then we roll into these interviews. Yeah. And it is what I love, and it is what's important. But everybody who's here to help the team is here because I asked them to, and they're invested in the relationship that we built. Right. Everyone who sits here across from me in the back of this ambulance, right? This World War II ambulance, right? You know, it is here because they're willing to give the time to tell their story so that we can be impactful to other people.
Right. Absolutely.
And that, to me, is the driving reason that gets me up every morning. And so, no, you don't get tired. Right. And you don't get hungry. And they keep coming over. Do you want breakfast? You want lunch? I'm like, I don't know. I don't have time. I have an interview. And we have to tell these people. We have to get it done. It doesn't matter. Right? Just give me some water. I probably need that. But I think, you know, and I think I say all this because I take that from you and the relationship that we've had, and that's been very impactful to me over the many years that you and I have known each other. So I thank you for that.
I fully appreciate that. Thank you. I mean, with the parade, that's the other beauty of the parade is it's all about the community, right? We moved 25,000 people. My operations team is 4 people, including me.
Yeah.
So we're able to move 25,000 people because you have hundreds of volunteers, and many of them have been volunteers for many years, even before me.
Yeah.
And they keep coming back because they know how important it is. Some are veterans themselves that want to honor the veterans before them. Like they're thinking about the Vietnam veterans, the Korean War veterans, the World War II veterans, and you know that's why they're not marching in the parade. They're volunteering to honor these veterans, which is amazing. But what I always find amazing is people who are not veterans, right? Because some of them do have skin in the game. They have a relative or something serve, but some of them are just patriotic Americans that are like, hey, I didn't serve, but I know how important that your service was. That allows me freedoms to do whatever I want in America, right? That's what makes our country great. So it's all about the community, and as Nick was touching upon, our health and wellness program is really built out as well. Again, you know, it sort of draws back to the Ruck March with the Flag and honoring veterans and taking care of them when they come home. As you know, the veteran suicide epidemic, they're saying the number is now 17 from 22. You know,
that's
it's still
everyone that can be saved is a win.
We're a long way from zero, but we're doing whatever we can, and we realize how important it is to have these holistic ways of healing veterans instead of the traditional means. So for 6 years now, it started out with rucking. Our friends at Go Ruck gave me a bunch of backpacks when I came home from being here at Jack's Beach for that ruck camp, and they said, go back to your regions of America and do something awesome with what you just learned here, and try and impact your community, try and impact veterans' lives. And that's how, that sort of gave birth to the UWVC Health and Wellness Program. It was 10 rucks they sent me. I connected with Samaritan Daytop Village, which has 2 4-step live-in facilities for male veterans. One's in Times Square, the other one's in Queens. So they're surrounded by, like, you know, clutter, noise, New York City. And so we take them out to the beautiful area of Navesink River, New Jersey, and we have them engaging in things like equine therapy. And after a couple of years, I got a little tired of everyone saying, when am I getting on the horse? so I ended up being the guinea pig to ride horses because they needed a veteran that knew nothing about horses. So I was like, well, since I live 5 minutes from here, this sounds like I'm being voluntold. But it's been amazing because everything's built out from rucking to equine to horseback riding to our friends at Sail Ahead out in Long Island. We do sailing with them in the summers, and half the crew knows how to sail, and they teach the veterans how to rotate around the boat and pull the lines and steer the ships.
Even terminology and vocabulary, like, it's just a real good day on the water for the vets.
But it's amazing because you get these vets together on a sailboat, and now they're working together like a team, like you were in the military, right?
Yeah, that's an important part of sailing, and we're gonna I mean, because I'm their race director, right? Nice. And that's been a program that was important to me, and I came upon them because I was looking for that team, you know, and I was there when it was when we met, and I'm in New York.
You
and
really
I don't know
see the magic happen because you see like smiles on people's faces, like they're staring like a sailboat, like who gets to do that, like, right?
And it's competitive, and it requires the team because you know, we're sailing boats that are not single-handed boats that you can do yourself, and people are in a different element, and then there is also this soothing aspect of the water, which I think is so important.
It really is. Yep. And that's part of that holistic healing. I mean, a lot of what we do with the equine therapy, you know, we're doing mindfulness exercises, progressive muscle relaxation techniques, team building exercises. So it all sort of, you know, integrates in the program, and it's really expanded. Now we also, besides sailing, we do art therapy every week. We have a art studio in Red Bank that's dedicated to veterans, so it's amazing. But yeah, and then the local community got involved because word of mouth, they heard about what we were doing. So like your friends at Jersey Mike's, like they support our health and wellness program for years now. They're amazing. And like Texas Roadhouse, got, you know, John Bon Jovi, the rock star, like he's got a place called Soul Kitchen that they serve dinner, but it's beautiful because the restaurant's built on the premise of people that can't afford meals. They volunteer their time to earn the meals. So we have our veterans, you know, normally they'll do equine, rucking, lunch, art therapy, and then we go to Soul Kitchen, and all the veterans in the program, we volunteer to help set up for dinner, clean the windows, sweep the floors, and do everything, and then we all sit down to a meal together, and it's a great way to end the day. But most people don't know that John's parents, they're both Marine veterans.
Really?
They met in the Marines.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Mrs. B's pretty tough. But Mr. B Senior, the reason why our program happens on Wednesdays is because that's the one day a week he volunteers and cooks. And he comes out and cracks jokes. But the guys have met John Bon Jovi. He's been awesome with the veterans. So it really has become, you know, what it started out as an initiative to do holistic, you know, healing for veterans has turned into like community building, because now we have so many spokes on the wheel, and it's not just the people that are providing services for the therapy. Equally as important is, like, you know, I've seen for our pizza place that we had, Umberto's, like they used to, at the end of every meal, they'd be like, thank you for your service, and they'd give everybody a hug. I've seen like grown men like go to tears, like just like, you know, knowing that people who have nothing to do with them or the military are just giving back and saying thank you, welcome home, right? That's what it's all about.
Well, and a lot of these guys don't get that anymore, right? Because they've been through so much. They've taken a knee, like they've made some poor choices, and now they're making better choices, right? And they're just not used to someone saying, hey, thank you, like I appreciate everything you're doing. Screw the downtime, like screw the dark times, like thank you for what you've done. And it just, again, it's a pretty powerful thing when that happens, when you could literally see somebody like almost tear up to just a simple thank you. It's amazing.
How do you get involved? What's the call to action?
So our website's uwvc.org. Again, it's United War Veterans Council. I know it's a lot to say that 10 times fast, right? Exactly. Closer to the parade, we also have a New York City Veterans Day Parade website. So again, we have hundreds of volunteers, mostly are active during the parade. We also do events throughout the year. We do Vietnam Veterans Day in late March. So that's a pretty big event.
Which was another milestone this year.
Absolutely. Yeah. So this year was actually the biggest one that we've had. And, you know, when I say big, it's all relative. So that started out as a commemoration for Vietnam veterans. Vietnam Veterans Plazas in Lower Manhattan on the south, on on the East River.
That's a cool place that a lot of people
really
don't
beautiful.
know actually exists. I mean, until I was part of UWVC and we did it, I didn't even know it was there. And the first time we talked about it, I'm like, I have no idea where that is. Somebody tell me.
And it's a lot bigger
really cool.
than most people think.
Yeah,
It's not just the wall. It's that entire area. Like, it's a big,
it's
beautiful.
90,000 square feet.
90,000 square feet in Lower Manhattan. That's a lot of space.
That's a lot of, that's an expensive piece of real estate.
That's exactly right.
But it was important to us to commemorate that, not only because the people that sort of restarted the UWVC are Vietnam veterans, but that whole generation. When they came home, the way that they came home, and the way that people treated them, like you had to be wearing a uniform when you came home on a plane from a war, which is crazy. Yeah, you can't even think about that nowadays. But yeah, we're happy to do things like that, and then also we have strong connections with our foreign allies, and we do a lot of traveling overseas too. So. Yeah,
so one of the novelties for me with this year's Vietnam Veterans Day was that I'm now a member of the Nam Knights Motorcycle Club.
Oh,
so I was able to bring, because I'm a part of the parent chapter in Carlstadt. We also have a Triborough chapter in Triborough, New York, and I was able to kind of help coordinate that and bring these Nam Knights over. We got them parking their bikes right on the street, and it was so the biggest part about that for me that was meaningful is one of our guys, road name is Menace, didn't see a Vietnam vet for decades, and met him there at the plaza, and they were like, it was like basically seeing a teammate that you haven't seen in years and years and years,
and they're instantly talking shit to each other.
That was it. They were both like immediately like, holy, this bad, oh my god, and they just sat and just yapped for forever, and it was just, again, it's that connecting, that community. We go back to that. When you leave it and then you finally reconnect with it, it's just so powerful and so meaningful. So that was a lot of fun, being on the bike and being able to be in the plaza.
But the whole concept of Vietnam Veterans Day, they've been doing it for years. But I started in 2017 running it, and I was like, wow, this is sort of like Vietnam Memorial Day. I was like, we should celebrate these veterans. So I found out that the Welcome Home Parade route for Vietnam veterans was the other side of the Brooklyn Bridge, crossing into Manhattan and going down the Canyon of Heroes. When it happened in 1985, the war was over for more than 10 years. So they're like, well, no one knew what was going to happen. But like 30,000 Vietnam veterans showed up and marched across the bridge. And then everyone that was in the office buildings on the Canyon of Heroes, and cops, firemen, people that worked in the area, they just left work and jumped into the parade and started marching. So there was a huge celebration. So it's like, that's what we want to integrate. That's about community. We got Annan flag makers that donated 100 American flags. We now have families, their little kids in strollers. It's a 3.5 mile march, and we cross the Brooklyn Bridge together with these 100 American flags. And every year the march is led by the Vietnam veterans. Many of them were in the original march in 1985.
It's pretty impressive to see all these flags coming across the Brooklyn Bridge. It's pretty
it's epic.
Impressive.
So, but I mean, for years I always felt, and I'm sure you felt the same way, when people say thank you for your service, it's sort of weird. It's like, do I say thank you to you?
You don't know what to do. You really don't know what to do.
But after doing all this work for so long, it sort of hit me. I was like, my answer now is like, it was an honor to serve. It's an honor to continue serving. And that's really what it's about.
Yeah, and we can't forget, and UWVC and you guys, Mark, Nick, you guys have done such a phenomenal job in this organization, and an honor of my life to have been affiliated with it. Continue, to work with you guys in whatever capacity that we can. I think we got to look forward, and let's try to get this thing out there on Veterans Day. Let's find a way. Our partnership. I want to introduce you to our partners at the Readiness Collective. Who have made this possible for us. Jaguar Land Rover of Fairfield, Jersey Mike's you're already working with, and whatever we can do to continue to support the mission that you're on in UWVC, you can count us in. You just got to give me a call and let me know.
Oh, thanks. And again, you are sort of doing part of our mission, because part of our mission is we want veterans to self-identify. We want veterans to share their stories, right? There's so many people, especially now they're dying, like our greatest generation, World War II. A lot of those guys never talked, or gals never talked about their stories, and they're lost. So it's very important what you're doing here is to capture those stories and have them be shared with the community. So thanks for doing that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We'll see you back in New York.
You got it, brother.
I want to stay in Florida. Thanks, guys.
That was great. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Fran.
American Jedburghs went on to form the foundation of the United States Special Forces and the Special Activities Directorate of the Central Intelligence Agency. Thanks for listening to the Jedburgh Podcast. I'm your creator and host, Fran Racioppi. Join us next week for a new episode on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out on YouTube for full episodes, highlights, and other behind-the-scenes content. If you like what you heard, give us a like and leave a review. Follow me, Fran Racioppi, Talent War Group, and our sponsor Jersey Mike Subs on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. Send your comments and inquiries to media@talentwargroup.com. As former members of Special Operations Forces, the Jedburgh Podcast and Talent War Group contribute a percentage of all profits to Special Operations Warrior Foundation, supporting the families of our fallen warriors. Thanks for joining us on this episode. How you prepare today determines success tomorrow.